Yeah. I thought it was magnificently staged by Mr. Trump. It was professionally done, said one person with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Yes, that is what the conspiracy theory leftists are saying. They're saying that, and really these people, they suffer from stage 3 TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. They're saying that this did not happen. It was staged by Mr. Trump. And, it would be one thing if it was a theory that made sense. But just like their opinions on Trump, it makes zero sense. So the conspiracy theorists, the actual conspiracy theorists, are out there, the far leftists who suffer from stage 3 TDS. And they're saying that this was staged, the attempted assassination. So I'm going to walk you through that. There was an interview done in California, of course, where we found some people where they're suffering from TDS pretty badly over there, and they said that, hey, it didn't happen. It was a false flag. So I'm going to get to that. Joy Reid is worried that President Donald Trump she's not worried about Trump being almost assassinated. No. She's worried that the media might actually feel some sympathy for him, and she's worried that the media is not going to criticize, quote, the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence. Yesterday, I told you the media is actually the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence, and I gave you examples of people who died at the hands, really indirectly, at the hands of the media, because the media shouts from the rooftops, cops are genocidal maniacs. Okay, they'll shout that. They'll echo it on their platform, CNN, MSDNC, all of the like. And then they're shocked when somebody actually goes out and does something about it, or they believe them, and they go and gun down cops. I mean, we saw this in 2020. When you call somebody Hitler constantly, and then his life is almost taken, that shouldn't shock anybody, because you're the one who promoted this type of violence. Anybody with the brain would go after Hitler, right? And try to kill Hitler. That's the ethical question. Would you go back in time and kill Hitler? And most people would say, yes, I would. So we're going to get to all of that. I do want to talk a bit about the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheatle. She actually blames the local police and says that they were in the building despite Secret Service being in charge of the event. And she says that it was their job to cover that building, the local police there. So we're going to get to that. I also want to get to former Vice President Joe Biden. Respect the office, don't call him president. Joe Biden, he's returned to the campaign trail for the first time since Donald Trump avoided an assassination attempt over the weekend. And yes, so we're going to get to that. We're also going to get to Iran. So the United States, we've obtained intel in recent weeks on a plot by Iran to assassinate Trump. Okay, a development that has led the Secret Service to increasing his security before the Saturday shooting. So the plot has no known connection to crooks. So apparently Secret Service was aware of some sort of plot done by Iran. Look, folks, I'm going to just say this. This means they're going to try to blame it on Iran so they can justify going to war with them. They want a justification for going into World War III. We're already at war. It's Ukraine 2.0, rinse and repeat. They just need an excuse to go to war with even more people. We're already really in a proxy war with Russia. We're already dealing with Israel. I mean, almost essentially propping Israel up, which I'm all for sending aid support to Israel. I want that war to end. Israel, unlike Ukraine, is actually an ally of ours and a part of NATO, right? So that makes sense. And Hamas, is, and Palestine, whatever you want to call it, they're after the Israelites again. And we're fueling that war. We're spending money on that war. Now we're going to be spending on another war because now they have a justification to go into war with Iran. So I want to point this out. That was increased security. So she came out, the Secret Service member or director, she came out and said, hey, we were, or the Secret Service, they said they increased security before Saturday shooting, knowing this intel, this plot by Iran. So that was increased security. And by increased security, I think they mean they sent out the B team, because I had talked to some folks at the Trump rally. I know some Trump rally groupies, if you want to call them that. They go to a lot of Trump rallies. They said they've never seen that many women covering the president, protecting the president. And I really think they sent the B team. So I don't know if that was increased security or not. It's really a lame example of increased security. The woman didn't even know how to holster her gun properly. One of the women, she was more concerned about adjusting her sunglasses. A different woman ducked behind the person she was supposed to be protecting, Donald Trump. So, yeah, like I said, this whole Iran business, I don't believe it, not for 1 second. I think that this is just a justification to go to war with Iran. We're already kind of in Iran, we know, funds Hamas, and, they're really the ones behind this war in Israel. So they're funding it, the Hamas side. So, I mean, that's really what's going on here. I think they just want an excuse to go to war again. To feed the beast that is known as the military-industrial complex. But I do want to get to the Secret Service director and her interview and what she told ABC News, because this is very important. She blames, essentially, the local police in an interview after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and she said that the local police were inside the building where the gunman had been shooting from, and they were told that they were responsible for the security around that building. Now, there was local police around that building. We see it in the videos. They were all around the perimeter. Trump supporters begging them to take out the shooter. They said, he's got a gun. He's on the roof. Get him. He's going to kill Trump, right? This is what Trump supporters were saying for minutes prior to the shooter actually taking those shots. Now, another large reason, at least this is what the director says, Kimberly Cheatle, who was installed in that position by Joe Biden. By the way, she was appointed by Joe Biden. She said another large reason why there may have not been security on the roof where Thomas Crooks was located to make the assassination attempt on Donald Trump is that building had a sloped roof. A sloped roof? Really? That's what stopped you? And she said, oh, it's a safety concern. A sloped roof? What? According to a report from the Daily Mail, Cheatle said, that building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, it was a safety factor, and that's something we considered, and we didn't want somebody up on the sloped roof, she added. The decision was made to secure the building from within inside the building. Like, they decided to put people inside the building. Crooks was able to get to the top of the building and fire at Trump, as well as the crowd behind the 45th president and the 47th president, despite the security being inside the building. So the shooter was actually identified as a potential person of suspicion prior to him actually taking the shots? Yeah, no duh. Everybody was telling the police and Secret Service, hey, there's a guy, there's a guy. Of course, he was identified as a potential person of suspicion. Unfortunately, she says, with the rapid succession of how things unfolded, by the time that individual was eventually located, they were up on the rooftop and able to fire at the former president. People in the crowd at the rally attempted to alert authorities of Crook's presence. Okay, this is what happened. People identified him way before those shots fired off. And after the shots were fired, Trump, we know he was struck in the air just a fraction of an inch away from death. We know that Corey Compertour, he's 50 years old. He was fatally shot. He was protecting his family in the process from the bullets. He threw himself in front of his daughters. The other people struck by the bullets, and they were critically injured. 57-year-old Marine veteran David Dutch, 74-year-old James Kompenhaver. They were both struck by bullets. They were both critically injured. Dutch was placed into a medically induced coma for treatment, being shot in the liver as well as the chest, as well as in the chest. Now, Copenhagen James, the 74-year-old, and Dutch, they're both in stable condition. So I figured that out from yesterday. I know you guys were asking. I do have to take a quick break, but more on this because the local police issued a statement, and they're kind of peeved off. They released a statement, and they said, look, right, you say it's our responsibility, but it's your responsibility. Your Secret Service. You should have had people up on the roof. It was 150 yards or something like that away from the president. Protocol is to put somebody up on the roof because it's common for somebody to go up there and try to assassinate an individual. Or somebody at one of these rallies. It's the most common place. So that's why they put people up on the roofs. So we're going to come back. We're going to read that statement from the local police, really blasting Cheatle here, the Secret Service director, for putting the blame on them. I'll be back. This is Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. The news and talk of Bloomington Normal. You guys can go ahead and be sure to text. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. This video is brought to you by Patriot Pump. Patriot Pump. This is a pre-workout fruit punch flavor. It is absolutely delicious. You can go to patriotpumpenergy.com and get yours today. It's not cheap, folks. It's like about $50 a bottle. I mean, this is going to last you quite some time, though. This is a pre-workout, and what I really like about it, I've changed it out for my cup of coffee. I still drink it in a coffee cup, right? But I've changed it out because this has a little bit more caffeine than a cup of coffee. It's 150 milligrams, but unlike your other pre-workouts, it doesn't have too much caffeine. Where you're like looking at 300 milligrams and jumping off the wall. So this is a conservative Christian company that we've partnered with here at Conservative Cat, and the stuff's good. The stuff's really good, and the company believes that, hey, your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health are all interconnected, and you have to be ready. You have to be ready when the time comes. If you're, what your purpose is, what God's calling you to do, and you have to be both physically ready, mentally ready, and spiritually ready for what is to come, because something is going to happen, and I am so pumped about it. Hence the word Patriot Pump. So you better get yours today. About $50, but totally worth it if you want to increase and enhance your workout. Yeah. All right. So when we come back, we're going to be chatting, like I said, about Joe Biden, him being on the campaign trail. This is his first appearance. It was at some NAACP thing. And yes, Joe Biden, he just called the George Floyd protests peaceful. There was over $2 billion done in property damage. People were killed. And I'll get to one of those people here in the next part of the show. But once again, we have leftist violence being normalized by President Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden. Respect the office. Make sure that we don't call him president, because he's not my president. But he's normalizing this leftist violence that we saw in 2020. He said that was peaceful. That is negligent, that is psychotic, and you're insane. And what you're doing is very dangerous, because you're normalizing that behavior. And that behavior is exactly where we are today, what led us up to this point today, where President Donald Trump was almost assassinated, and where somebody lost their lives at a Trump rally. Okay, so I'm going to get to how Trump responded to those riots, because his whole thing, why he brought up the George Floyd protest, was Joe Biden said that Trump did not respond to those protests well, and that he shouldn't have called the National Guard to go after the peaceful protesters. And he said, quote, "What in the hell is the matter with this man sending the National Guard?" I have several stories about the 2020 Summer of Love, right? I have several examples of people who lost their lives, several examples of people who lost their businesses, experienced property damage, okay? Billions in property damage, over $2 billion, okay? So I've got all kinds of examples of how Trump responded, why he responded the way he did. And for Joe Biden to go out there and say that there's something wrong with the way Trump responded by sending the National Guard to these mostly peaceful protests is absolutely absurd. I mean, to criticize Donald Trump's response in saying that he shouldn't have sent the National Guard is absolutely crazy. It's crazy. So he was in Las Vegas, Nevada. He addressed the assassination attempt that killed a bystander. That's Corey Comperton, or Comper, yes, Corey. And it injured others as well. So we're going to chat a little bit about former Vice President Joe Biden. I am also going to get to that local police statement, because we have, of course, the Secret Service blaming it on local officials. So that's just not correct, and it's wrong, and the local police aren't having it. So I'll be right back. Woohoo! Good morning. Yes, you can find me on YouTube. It's real simple. Just find me at Conservative Cat Show. Just type it in your search bar and subscribe to the YouTube channel today. You get to see a lot of the show prep there. For example, I'm going to throw up the statement here from the National Fraternal Order of Police. Before we took the break, we were talking a little bit about this. They released a statement because they're pissed that the secretary, or the Secret Service director, Cheatle, she's out there saying the police, the local police, were responsible for the security at that building that the shooter was on top of, and they were supposed to be inside the building, which they were, but they didn't figure out that he was up on the roof for some odd reason. And she's putting all the blame here on the local police authorities. So I'm going to read a little bit from this national FOP president. He released the statement, and he said this: while reports and information are still being gathered and developed, a man was able to obtain a shooting perch with the line of sight to former President Trump, a protectee of the Secret Service. It is the primary function of the Secret Service to provide the protection and security on sites like the one in Butler, Pennsylvania. In order to carry out this law enforcement mission, the safety and security of the protectee, the Secret Service relies on support and assistance of local law enforcement. While these local officers do not have all the specialized training in individual protection, they are fully capable of assisting at these large events, whomever the protectee may be. We must remember that the law enforcement mission is a shared mission, and law enforcement at every level routinely cooperates and collaborates with one another. More than 90% of U.S. law enforcement are state and local officers. They would not be as effective at their jobs without the support of federal colleagues, and our federal partners would be unable to perform their functions without the assistance of these local agencies. So he goes on and he says, yeah, in wake of some of the anonymous comments from unknown officials, state and local agencies wonder if they can rely on the Secret Service. I'm concerned that the anonymous statements or media speculation could have a chilling effect on the ability of federal, state, and local law enforcement to work together through what will be a grueling campaign. So he's upset, and he's worried that these comments, made by the director of Secret Service himself, or herself, he's worried that this is going to have an effect on the local agencies working together with the federal agencies, because what she's doing is this is what leftists do, okay? And she's a leftist. I told you yesterday how she's a DEI ideology worshiper. She loves the DEI. She vowed that 30% of the Secret Service was going to be women by 2030. And I'm not saying that women can't be a part of the Secret Service. There's plenty of jobs within the Secret Service that don't involve protecting an individual or providing, individual protection, okay, or being a Secret Service agent. There's plenty of jobs within the Secret Service, okay? I'm not saying that. What I am saying is DEI, if you're just putting somebody in there because of their skin color or their gender, you're begging for a disaster. You're begging for a disaster when you put unqualified people in positions. So the Patrick Yose is his name. He's the national president of the Fraternal Order of Police. He took issue with a spokesman of the United States Secret Service who suggested that local law enforcement was supposed to be posted in the area where the would-be assassin fired and hit the former president over the weekend. In an interview this evening, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle doubled down on this claim, saying local police in the area were responsible. All of us want answers to our questions, and this was, as Secretary Mayorkas said earlier, a security failure that nearly cost former President Trump his life. This is what the president says of the National Order of Fraternal Police. He says, all of us in law enforcement can agree that that roof of the building should have been secured by law enforcement. It was clearly not. Nonetheless, we recognize the extraordinary heroism of the Secret Service agents and those who saved the life of the protectee. I don't think the Secret Service agents saved the life of the protectee. I think it was God who divinely intervened. I don't think the Secret Service did much. Okay, by that time, the Secret Service, they did take out the shooter. I shouldn't say that. They did eventually take out the shooter, not before an innocent died and 2 other people were critically wounded, which makes no sense. How do you, he should not have had time to kill all those people and to take all those shots. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, so they're upset that Cheatle is out there saying that the local police were responsible for the security. He says, we're all responsible for this, and we should be collaborating together and coming out and putting a divide in between local law enforcement and federal agencies and federal law enforcement. This is going to cause all kinds of problems in the future. That's what he's saying in this statement. He says that's essentially what he's saying is this is negligent. This is going to cause problems when you come out and you blame local law enforcement for this thing. It wasn't our fault solely. It's on you, the Secret Service, as well. I think they're all to blame. Okay, that's what he's saying here. He says it was a failure. Mayorkas said it was a security failure. Okay, that's not me saying it's a failure. Mayorkas, the guy in charge of the Secret Service, says it was a failure, and it's a failure on behalf of, the local law enforcement, all the way from top to bottom. And this is what the National Fraternal Order of Police president said in the statement. So the Secret Service then puts out their own statement and says, of course, any news suggesting the Secret Service is blaming the local law enforcement for Saturday's incident is simply not true. Okay, but the director of the Secret Service said, as you know, the decision was made to secure the building from inside. And then she goes on, she says that the reason for that was because of the sloped roof. And then she says the local police, there was local police in that building. There was local police in the area that they were responsible for the outer perimeter of that building. So she said, she blames it. I mean, that's placing blame. I mean, she's quoted saying that. So, when you're the Secret Service is trying to gaslight you into thinking that nobody's blaming the local law enforcement authorities for Saturday's incident, and it's just not true. Yes, they are blaming. Don't gaslight me. Don't gaslight me. All right, I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Hey, good morning. Thank you so much. Like I said, today's broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump. Patriot Pump it's a pre-workout. Look at this cool little logo. It's got a cross here and some dumbbells. This company believes that you have to have you have to have excellent mental health, excellent physical health, and excellent spiritual health, and that they're all interconnected. This is a great formula. I use it every day. And it keeps me focused. I think that's the black pepper extract in there that keeps you focused. It's if I had to it's like taking Adderall without taking Adderall. No, there's something in there that just keeps me focused all day long. So I love it. When we come back, we're going to be talking about former Vice President Joe Biden. He returned to the campaign trail for the first time since the attempted assassination. He gets out there and he starts talking, and I know you're just let me grab the nearest fork and stab my eyeball. Anytime former Vice President Joe Biden talks, he just spews out nonsense, and with what sentences he could ramble together and mumble together. He comes out and he blasts Donald Trump for his response to the murder of George Floyd and for the riots that happened in 2020. He denounced political violence and polarization, but Biden nevertheless criticized Trump both implicitly and explicitly, saying Trump's track record is bad on things like the economy, reproductive rights, gun violence, and other issues. And he says, quote, just because our politics are very divided doesn't mean we should stop telling the truth. Who you are, what you've done, and what you will do. That's all fair game. It's wait a second. It's wait a second. Whoa. You are absolutely crazy to think that Trump's response to the George Floyd riots was a failure of any kind. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. This is Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, and we're back. Before we took the break, I was telling you about how the Secret Service, they put out their own statement saying and denying, really, that the agency had placed any blame on local officials, saying any news suggesting that the Secret Service is blaming local law enforcement for Saturday's incident is just simply not true. This is despite, and I've got the quotes here, Director Cheatle saying in an interview, there was local police in that building. There was local police in the area that were responsible for the outer perimeter of that building. So, I mean, does she say, oh, she doesn't come out and say it's the fault of local law enforcement, I mean, directly, but I mean, come on. She said that they were responsible for that building. And she said that the Secret Service was, by saying that, she's saying that the Secret Service was not responsible for that building. And therefore, she's blaming the local law enforcement. Okay, so I want to talk about this here in the 6 o'clock hour. Then we're going to get to Joy Reid. She's suffering from TDS very, very, very badly. And she's upset that the media is providing sympathy for President Donald Trump after the attempted assassination. And she's worried that they're going to continue to express their sympathy. And she points out that Trump is the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence. No, Joy, that's actually you. That's you. So let's talk about Joe Biden first. He's out on the campaign trail. This is, I think, the first time he's been out on the campaign trail since Donald Trump avoided an assassination attempt and dodged bullets. Hey, if you're having a bad day, just think, if a 78-year-old can go out there, make it to his tea time at 9 a.m. the next morning, right? Which I don't think it was the next morning, but he did golf over the weekend. So, I mean, he got shot in the air, managed to get up, pump his fist in the air, and make it to a tea time that weekend. I think you're going to be all right. Just remember, you're going to be okay. You can make it through your work today, make it through the job, get home, cook dinner. You'll be all right. So let's get back to Joe Biden. In Las Vegas, Nevada, he addressed the shooting directly. And this is a shooting that killed an innocent bystander and injured two others, as well as Trump himself. Okay, so this is some quotes from Joe Biden at the podium. Our politics have gotten too heated. As I've made clear throughout my presidency, well, we all have a responsibility to lower the temperature and condemn any form of violence. We've got to remember, in America, we're not enemies, we're friends, we're neighbors, we're fellow Americans. No. Okay, yesterday I told you, don't listen to these people who are saying lower the temperature, calm down, tone down your rhetoric. Don't listen to those people, because those people are idiots. Those are the same people who brought the temperature to a boiling point and are continuing to raise the temperature. So do not tone down your rhetoric, and don't think that we're all, holding hands in a circle, kumbaya. The thing that brings people together is realizing, hey, we have a common enemy, and we need to recognize and protect ourselves against this enemy. Okay, so in the same breath, he condemns political violence and, division. But nevertheless, he criticized Donald Trump both implicitly and explicitly, saying Trump's track record is bad on things like economy, reproductive rights, gun violence, and other issues. And then get this. This is what he says that really just grinds my gears, okay? I was going to say something, I can't say it on the radio. Okay, so just because our politics are very divided doesn't mean we should stop telling the truth, who you are, what you've done, what you will do. Okay, that's fair game, what you will do. So he's still saying that Trump is a threat to democracy. He's still using this rhetoric that if Trump were to be president, he's going to destroy the planet. Okay, so this is what the sentiment. Joe Biden is still out there. He's still out there with his political violence rhetoric. That saying things that will incite more violence. So he goes on. He blasted Trump for his response to the murder of George Floyd, a black man in Minnesota who died after having an insane amount of fentanyl in his system. I'm going to get to his autopsy report here in just a second. I've gone through it several times, but I'll go through it again. He says this: you understand, if you're going to talk about standing against violence, you must stand against all violence. You must stand against violence perpetrated against presidential candidates in Pennsylvania, the violence perpetrated against George Floyd in Minnesota, against black veterans, police officers like Eugene Goodman on January 6th. Of course, he brought up Eugene Goodman. Black election workers like Ruby Freeman, Shay Moss. In Atlanta, we have to stand against violence and intimidation of white supremacy. Yes, so this is what he says. White supremacy. He's calling Donald Trump a white supremacist. He's calling these people white supremacists. With Ruby Freeman, I don't know what violence he's talking about. A pastor went to her door and asked if she was okay. Okay, after a viral video was posted of Ruby Freeman, where she goes and she stuffs ballots underneath the table. Okay, this was all on video, and people began to question that video and were concerned that she was trying to rig the election. Okay, the 2020 election. So this viral clip, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. It's of Ruby Freeman, and she's putting ballots underneath the table, or she's feeding multiple ballots through the same tabulator. So she puts one ballot through the tabulator, grabs that same ballot, puts it through again. Okay, so she's putting the same ballot through the tabulator multiple times. There's video of this. And there was a pastor from Illinois, actually, Stephen Lee, goes and asks if she's all right, knocks on her door, asks if she's all right. He's got the priest collar and everything, Faust. Okay, Pastor Stephen Lee. And he goes and he knocks on her door and asks if she's okay. And I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. Perhaps Ruby was speaking with Stephen Lee and willing to talk with him about, why she was on tape looking like she was rigging the election. I don't know. I have no idea. But up to that point, I don't think there was no violence against Ruby Freeman. So to sit there and say that is just completely false. Eugene Goodman, that's the fault of the Democrats and the establishment. They staged January 6th. We know that. Nancy Pelosi's daughter was hired to film the whole thing. So all of these instances he brought up, just totally fake and false. But nevertheless, he doesn't bring up that the George Floyd riots ended in a retired police captain really not ended, but started. This was in the beginning of the 2020 riots. A retired police captain, who's black, by the way, was fatally shot in St. Louis. He was passionate. He loved young people. He was 77 years old. David Dorn, say his name. He was shot down responding to an alarm at a pawn shop overnight. There were these lootings, these riots in the streets. And throughout the night, there were 25 arrests made, various charges. There were 55 businesses and counting. There's no telling how many businesses experienced property damage, were burglarized. This was a huge looting that was taking place in St. Louis. This guy, David Dorn, he's a black man who responds, and he's killed. Okay, he's killed by these left-wingers, these BLM protesters. Okay, so like I said, I encourage you to find me one example of political violence. They can't find one, okay? The election workers, Eugene Goodman, I told you why those things are false. January 6th was the fault of Nancy Pelosi. She denied President Donald Trump more police, the National Guard, for that event. She denied him, okay? It was a setup. The cops were ushering people in. Okay, it was a setup. And the Ruby Freeman, I explained to you, the violence they're talking about is Pastor Stephen Lee knocking on her door asking if she's okay. Okay, that's the violence they're talking about. And Stephen Lee is currently going through all kinds of litigation for doing that. So, like I said, Biden ripped Trump on his response to the Floyd murder. And he spoke to a crowd at this NAACP gathering. I'm going to tell you what he said about George Floyd and the protests. He actually said it, folks. He said that those were peaceful protests. Don't forget, there was $2 billion worth of damage, property damage done, many innocent people like David Dorn killed. And then he goes after Trump for calling the National Guard in after these protests erupted out after Floyd's murder. Okay. And the only thing that murdered Floyd was fentanyl, and I'll get to his autopsy here. On the other side, this is Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube. We'll be right back. And I'm going to have Chris hit that button, because I don't think I can. There we go. Mm-hmm. Woo! Hey, it's Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. We've got so much to get to. Some Californians, of course, they suffer from stage 3 TDS. They're saying that the attempted assassination is fake, that Donald Trump faked it. Yes. So there was an interview done with several people, just man on the street type stuff, and they're saying that they don't believe that the attempted assassination is real and that Donald Trump staged the whole thing. Wow. Tell me you're an absolute nut without telling me you're an absolute nut. So Joe Biden, before we took the break, I was telling you about how he said that he blasted Trump's response to George Floyd's murder, George Floyd protest, and he was speaking to a crowd at an NAACP gathering yesterday, and he says, when you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder, Donald Trump called for the National Guard to go after you. What in the hell is the matter with this man? What? You want to know how Trump responded to the riots? Here, I'll point you to a tweet released shortly after David Dorn, a black retired officer who died during a looting that took place in St. Louis. Trump says this on Twitter: our highest respect to the family of David Dorn, a great police captain from St. Louis who was viciously shot and killed by these despicable looters last night. We honor our police officers, perhaps more than ever before. Thank you. So that's what Donald Trump tweeted amidst all of these violent rioters killing people like David Dorn, a black police officer, by the way. Trump's tweet, of course, received criticism. A filmmaker, Ava DuVernay, came out with a tweet and said, we won't let you use this black man for your political gain. You can try, but we won't let it happen. May he rest in peace. May the truth about his murders come to light. Okay, the truth about his murderers come to light. And may he not have his name dragged into your vicious, evil games. What? Folks, the truth about David Dorn being murdered is that these left-wing deranged protesters, after George Floyd's so-called murder, they took to the streets and they gunned down officers in the masses. I mean, that's the truth about what happened in 2020. Joe Biden just called George Floyd protests peaceful. He's normalizing this behavior. And this is what my problem is. He says, oh, we have to dial or tone down our rhetoric. We have to lower the temperature. This guy is raising the temperature. Once again, he's inciting leftist violence by normalizing past leftist violence. Okay, he normalized those George Floyd riots just yesterday. He took to the microphone and started normalizing this behavior and said that they were peaceful. They were not peaceful protests. People died. David Dorn died. Okay, he was a retired cop. He shouldn't have even been there. He was just doing community a service, and then he was gunned down by these people looting. $2 billion worth of property damage done. Many innocent people killed during these riots. I do want to get to George Floyd's autopsy. He was not murdered. I've got the autopsy right here. No life-threatening injuries identified. I'm reading straight from the autopsy, okay? No facial or oral injuries, no injuries to the muscles of the neck. Okay, so how do you die by strangulation or by asphyxiation if you have no injuries, no life-threatening injuries identified? If you had some sort of vertebrae messed up, or if you had any soft tissue injuries, I'm not a doctor, but if you had any injuries, life-threatening injuries, that would be laid out in the autopsy. I'm reading from the autopsy. The guy had 11 nanograms of fentanyl in his system. That's enough to kill 3 horses. Okay, he had triple the amount of fentanyl in his system. All right, I gotta take a quick break. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Find me on the live stream. That's YouTube and Rumble. Ew, absolutely disgusting. What? J.B. Pritzker, guys, this guy just doesn't stop. So this is what he says. The governor, he disavowed political violence, but this is what he says, direct quote: Donald Trump is a convicted felon, adjudicated rapist, a liar, and he's unfit for the office of the president of the United States. Having said that, I'm very pleased that he remains relatively unharmed. That was relatively a minor incident for him. And of course, I'm saddened, and I find it extremely tragic that someone with apparently an assault weapon, oh God, here he goes again, killed people at the rally. That should have never happened. This guy is unhinged. So, I mean, how do you, he says it's a minor incident. Guy almost died, okay? If he would have had his head slightly turned by like a quarter of an inch, Trump would not be here today. He almost died. Not to mention the guy that got a bullet to the brain, Corey. And then also, not to mention the two individuals who are critically injured. One of them had to be induced into a coma. Okay? I mean, come on. Governor J.B. Pritzker, I think, is the worst politician on the planet. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not trying to exaggerate that. He is probably the worst politician on the planet. Gosh, I can't believe, he's got TDS so bad. I mean, I can't even, maybe he's just suffering from stage 3 TDS like these people. I got to get to this quote. I thought it was magnificently staged by Mr. Trump. It was professionally done, said one person in California who has stage 3 TDS. We're going to get to this story. There was some man on the street tape out there floating around, and some of the things people are saying about this assassination attempt are truly entertaining. Because these people, they say you're the conspiracy theorist. No, they're the conspiracy theorist. Okay, so we're going to get to that. Joy Reid, she's not worried that President Donald Trump was almost assassinated. No. She's worried that the media might actually feel some sympathy and have some sympathy for him because he's supposedly, quote, the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence. No, that's you, Joy Reid. That's you and the media. Then we're going to get to this story. It's kind of wacky. A Florida woman, she incited a 500-person riot after a skating rink canceled her daughter's birthday party at the skating rink. So we're going to get to all of that here on Conservative Cat. Again, find me on YouTube. Here we go. Conspiracy theorists. So these are the actual conspiracy theorists. They're nuts. And they're suffering from major Trump derangement syndrome. And the theory, it would be one thing if the theory made sense, but it doesn't. Much like their opinions, none of it really makes sense. It makes zero sense, actually. So, quote, these are from Californians, a guy, he was on the street, he was doing some man on the street type stuff, and he was asking people, hey, what do you think about the Trump assassination? And they said, quote, it's a false flag. Quote, I thought it was magnificently staged by Mr. Trump. It was professionally done. Trump staged a fake assassination to gain support. And then he was questioned. This guy was further questioned. Okay, what do you think about the people dying? Do you think that they actually died? And he goes, oh, do you think Trump cares if people die so he gets attention and gets reelected? Nobody ever shot off his ear. They cut his ear when he went down. I mean, these people, they're psychotic. They have gone so far in their hate for Trump that they can't even come up with good conspiracy theory. It wouldn't be out of the question if all they were doing was filling in some gaps. Okay, so people are going to say, oh, Kat, you're a conspiracy theorist for saying the CIA did it. No, I'm just filling in some gaps. It doesn't make sense. The Secret Service didn't have that rooftop covered. It was only 150 yards away from Trump. Protocol tells us that, hey, there needs to be Secret Service agents on top of every roof within 300 yards, right? So it didn't make sense that building wasn't secured. It didn't make sense that there was such a lapse in time for Secret Service to respond or local law enforcement to respond after Trump supporters said, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. He's going to kill Trump. It took them minutes to respond to that. It didn't make sense that the snipers, when you watch the video, They hesitated to shoot the shooter and bring down the shooter. The shooter got in a few shots. None of it makes sense, and we're filling in gaps. Okay, we know that Trump is against the deep state, the establishment. We know that JFK was against the deep state, the establishment, and he wouldn't be goaded into war. We know that Donald Trump has said that he's going to pull us out of all of these war. We know how much the rhinos and the Democrats love their war, their military-industrial complex. We know that the deep state, it's these two mafias, and they are just obsessed with going to war because they make all kinds of money, and they sit on these boards like Bell Helicopter, and they get all this stock, right, and they boost their stock from going to war. Okay, we know this, and we're simply filling in the gaps, okay? Our side is filling in the gaps. It'd be one thing if they were filling in the gaps, as there were definitely questionable things that went on that day. But that's not what they're doing. They will gaslight themselves into oblivion rather than feel any ounce of sympathy for Trump. It was staged, one person said. Is this really the best that they can do? It was staged. It was staged. Question: how can you stage a bullet to miss one's brain and have it brush the ear? I don't know how you do it. Even if you're the sharpest shooter, there's no way that Trump would agree to somebody shooting at him that closely. Okay, I mean, there's no way somebody would agree to that. Would you allow somebody to say, "Oh, I'm a sharpshooter. Let me just graze your ear with a bullet"? No. If Trump was in on this, there's no way he would have been in on it, because he would have had to agree to something like that, and no human would agree to this level of danger. So again, the least these people can do is come up with a decent theory. You got to come up with a decent theory if you're going to disbelieve your eyes. One man said, "I don't see it being the truth. The attempted assassination is not the truth." Okay, so I mean, maybe they're not like all that. They know something is up. We know something is up. They're misplaced in their theory. They have to try to fill in the gaps, okay? And they're not doing that because their TDS is getting in the way, their Trump derangement syndrome. What do you mean you don't believe it? You can't just take reality and claim it's false because they refuse to see someone they hate as a victim. Okay? You just can't distort reality because you don't like somebody. And the best we got out of this man on the street interview was this woman. She condemned the assassination, but then in the same breath she says it was probably staged, the assassination. Some of them went as far as to claim that the death of Corey Comparator was a, quote, small price to pay for Trump as long as he got elected, because of course these people said that. They said that Corey was a sacrifice and Trump is not beyond sacrificing people. What? Are you insane? And this is what, and I feel so badly because it's the media that drove these people to insanity by constantly saying Trump's a dictator, Trump's a dictator, Trump's a dictator, Trump's Hitler, Trump's Hitler, Trump's a threat to democracy. So somebody actually finally believed you and went out and did this. So one man did make a great point in this man on the street interview. He says, it just doesn't feel normal. He goes, to have somebody shoot at you and then to get up and scream, fight, fight, fight. Trump is just not normal. That's because Trump in this election are not normal. This is the greatest, I think this is the point where we take our country back from the deep state, 100%. Our state was, or we the people, the control of the people was taken from us when JFK died. I think it was 1960s in November. That was when they took the state. It took we the people, our ability to govern ourselves away from us. 2024 November is when we take it back. Trump is not normal. He's built differently. When was the last time a presidential candidate promised to make America great again? When was the last time we had a president promise to stick it to the establishment and put America first instead of foreign nation? It's been quite a while. I think the last time, honestly, we had that was JFK, and look what happened to him. Okay, so the video only confirms of this man on the street video only confirms that these people think what these people think if it has anything to do with Trump. These people go into full blown TDS mode. They distort reality because they have Trump derangement syndrome. Um, One leftist claimed that, quote, if Trump is involved, it's fraud. Trump could cure cancer, and these people would have a problem with that because Trump is bad, Orange Man bad. I mean, it doesn't matter what Trump does. He could be cure cancer, and they'd still hate him. The only person that made some sense, like I said, he said Trump is strong, he's built differently. Not many people could get shot, doubled down, and use it as an excuse to keep fighting. And nothing infuriates the people more that even a bullet can't bring Trump down. So Trump did not need, he doesn't need to stage an assassin to win. I told you the polling suggested that he was going to win New York prior to the assassination, prior to the debate that he and Biden had. Okay, he didn't need the assassination to beat Sleepy Joe. And none of this it needed to happen for him to win. None of it. But it did happen, and leftists, they refuse to admit that for reasons that make absolutely no sense, and they're jumping to wild conspiracy. All right, when we come back, I want to talk about Joy Reid. Joy Reid is probably the top 5 worst media personalities in the world. Go ahead, let me know on YouTube who you think the worst media personality is in the world. I don't know. Rachel Maddow's pretty bad. I don't like Joy Reid. I think Joy Reid, Brian Stelter. Yes, Brian Stelter is probably the worst. I don't know. Let's play a little game. Send me a comment on YouTube. Let me know what media personality is the worst ever. My bet is Brian Stelter. Actually, no, I think it's Tubin, the guy who, did what he did, Tubin himself on a Zoom call. Maybe he's the worst. I don't know. All right, we're going to be right back, Conservative Cat. Let's talk about Joy Reid and how she's the worst media personality, one of the worst media personalities to ever exist in history. It's Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate it. Let me know in the comments section who you think is the worst media personality to ever exist in history. This broadcast is brought to you by Patriot Pump. This is a pre-workout. I highly recommend you check it out. It's patriotpumpenergy.com. It has 150 milligrams of caffeine, has 2,500 milligrams of creatine. This is really good stuff. It keeps me focused all day long. I love it. It is a Christian conservative company. They believe that mental, physical, spiritual health is all interconnected, and you can't be your best self with all 3 of those being up to par and being excellent. So this is going to help you do that. It enhances your workout. I use it. I run. It gives me the energy to run, a couple miles a day. So I highly recommend you go get it. It's patriotpumpenergy.com, patriotpumpenergy.com. I so do appreciate you. I'll go ahead and throw it on my comment section here if you need the web address. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Joy Reid. There's also this wacky liberal that I want to get to. So I think she's a liberal. I highly doubt she's not. She's ratchet, nonetheless. Nevertheless, she's very, very ratchet. She incites 500 people to riot at this skating rink because the skating rink told her that she could not have her daughter's birthday party there. So very interesting how she carried out this riot, this incitement that happened. So I think it's going to be quite interesting here to take a listen to this story in just a little bit. But you people in your conspiracy Trump, all Trump's what want to do is use the position of the president to become wealthy. All this is to him as a business venture. Okay. No. So Clifford, pal, I'm going to address this comment really quickly. Trump, he says conspiracies, all Trump wants to do is use the position of president to become wealthy, and this is a business venture for him. Dude's 78. Okay. If this was a business venture, I don't know about you. Now, me as a small business owner, my fiance and I, we would throw in the towel pretty quickly. Okay. If we were shot at, if we were indicted, if we were convicted of trumped up charges, crimes that I can't even define. I don't even really understand how he was convicted of a felony for that type of stuff. 34 of them, nevertheless. So to say that this is just a business venture for him is very odd. I don't know why you would say something like that there, Clifford, because most people, they'd throw in the towel at this point. It takes not a whole lot for somebody to throw in the towel when it comes to their business. If things get hard, a lot of times business owners will just say, nope, I'm done. We see that as many people have fled the state of Illinois. Many businesses, small businesses, are fleeing the state of Illinois because of the rampant regulation and restrictions that this state has. But even if he's built differently, the guy is 78 years old. He's got wealth. So if this was just like about wealth for him, I don't know how you could say that, because he's got all the wealth he could possibly need. He's 78. He's not going to live much longer. Okay, so he's got enough wealth to get him to the end of his life. He has an estate larger than anything that we could ever dream of Mar-a-Lago. He could be golfing on Mar-a-Lago the rest of his life, be perfectly comfortable. Okay, so to claim that this is just a business venture for him doesn't make sense, because why would he go through all of this trouble for a business? Bottom line is he's still a businessman. I get that, Clifford. Yes, he's a businessman, which is great. What's wrong with businessmen? If he wants to, tackle this country like a business, and I gotta come back, but I'll address it. Some crazy comments here in the comments section on the YouTube channel. Go ahead, visit the Conservative Cat Show on YouTube. It's quite incredible. So somebody says here, Trump is just doing this because he wants to become wealthy, and he sees the position of president, as nothing more than a business venture. No, I disagree. I think that he truly cares about the country, and I think that he truly realizes what's at stake here, and that's actual our republic. I think he realizes that the deep state has gained all kinds of control, and that we, the people, no longer have the ability to govern ourselves like the founding fathers had intended. I think that he's patriotic, and I think that he quite possibly has been told by God to do this thing. We all serve a purpose. We all have a purpose, and God bestows that purpose in our hearts and in our minds. And I don't know about you, but when I have a purpose and God tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. So I really think that that's why he's doing it, because think about it. The guy's 78 years old. If he was doing this for wealth, or if he saw this as a business venture, why? Really, like, logically, there's no way a person would do this at 78 years old. He's got an estate larger than we could ever dream of, Mar-a-Lago. He's got money to make it to the end of his life and then some. right? So he could play golf for the rest of his life and live on his estate in Mar-a-Lago and not get shot at, not be convicted of. Now, I talk to business owners all the time, especially business owners here in Illinois. They throw in the towel quite a bit because of the regulation, the restrictions, and how hard it is to run a business. And they throw in the towel for much less. Okay. So either, Trump is absolutely insane and an insane businessman, which I think he's a very good businessman, or he's actually doing this from the heart and he believes that this is a purpose that he has to fulfill. He has a destiny that he has to fulfill. I mean, that's the only explanation. So I don't know. It's incredible. People say that, oh, he's just doing this to be wealthy. It's all for him. It's a business venture. Guy's 78. I think he's had enough business in his life. And he said this multiple times. I could be on my Mar-a-Lago estate right now. I don't want to be doing this, but we have to do this. Because I'm the only one who's willing to stand up against the deep state. And really, when you look at the Republican primary candidates, Nikki Haley, I mean, come on, you think that she was going to stand up against the deep state? No. All right, I do have to get to the story. Joy Reid, she was on, whatever channel she's on. I don't even know anymore. But she's out there saying that the media shouldn't express sympathy for Donald Trump because he's supposedly the greatest purveyor and promoter of political violence. If there were, I think Joy Reid is the top 5 worst media personality. She's up there to ever exist in human history. She's one of the top 5. And, this is unsurprising considering nothing will stop progressives from victim shaming. They hate victims of crime. And that's clear by their anti-crime or their anti-victim policies, their pro-criminal policies. They hate victims of crime, and they will do nothing. Nothing will stop progressives from victim shaming, even if it means making things up. So, Joy Reid, she says, according to the Daily Mail on her show. Read Out, I think is what it's called. I don't know. She was on a panel with a bunch of people. She stressed that she did not want to see Trump rewrite himself as a victim. And then she talks about how there's voter intimidation going on in Arizona. And this is an example of political violence that she says Republicans have been nurturing. Republicans like Donald Trump have been nurturing. I want to address that because she is the biggest offender of someone trying to rewrite history. And this is a perfect example of that. This example right here, where she says, "I fear, and I have fear that the media will acquiesce to trying to convince people that things they've been experiencing for the last 5 to 6 years didn't happen." Okay, so she's trying to rewrite history in this example here. Then she's trying to claim that Trump isn't a victim and that he shouldn't be trying to make himself one. And this is a perfect example of Joy Reid actually herself. She's the biggest offender of trying to rewrite history, and she pretends that Trump is violent while not even being able to mention one time that he was violent. So she brings up this thing about Arizona. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Absolutely nothing. There is rampant voter fraud that has happened in Arizona, specifically with Kari Lake's race. Quote, this is what Reid says. She says, "I think about the people who tried to vote in Arizona when men with long guns were standing outside the polling places to send them a message." Now, there has been no connection to any right-wing group or anything with these men in this story out of Arizona being right-wingers or being Trump supporters. There's no connection. If anything, they're probably Antifa militants trying to get, publicity and trying to pin it on maybe right-wingers or Trump supporters. But they didn't do anything to anybody. They just stood there, which I mean is like intimidation, sure. But a lot of this in Arizona, what they're not telling you is that they're peaceful and they're going the, civil way through the court system. And a lot of it's voter integrity groups who have raised questions and concerns about election laws in these counties and about how the county clerks are counting ballots. And like that's what's going on in Arizona. But Reid won't tell you that a majority of those people. Now, I don't know what she's talking about. I think there was one instance where somebody had a long rifle outside of a polling place. Nobody shot anybody. And there's no connection to right-wing extremist groups with these people who had these long guns. And apparently they said, quote, if you don't vote the right way, I'm here with this gun. Apparently that's what these people said in Arizona. I haven't been able to find much on this story at all, which tells me it's complete bogus. But can she just name one example where Trump was violent or Trump really supporters? I mean, I can't even name an instance where Trump supporters were violent. January 6th. Okay. You want to point to that? No, they were defending themselves against a weaponized police force. And I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother can of worms, but that's what happened on January 6th. On top of that, the shooting was a result of the violent rhetoric that she spouts on a daily basis, Joy Reid. Okay, so I just want one example of Trump being violent, one, because so many people would love to hear just one instance where he was violent or incited violence of any kind. She fails to back up her foolish lies. On top of all of that, I mean, she's the reason why that shooting happened. She continuously and numerous times called Trump literally Hitler. She said that he's Hitler, okay, multiple times. But this is what progressives do. They're masters of psychological projection, and they're such masters at it. I think they start to believe their lies themselves. Like they end up believing their own lies. They're masters of psychological projection. So congrats to Reid for being the ugliest lying gaslighter on television. And she remains the biggest purveyor and promoter of political violence because we have actual tape of her calling Trump Hitler. I would love for somebody to point out to me an example where Trump was violent or called Joe Biden something to the effect of Hitler. Now, he calls him Sleepy Joe, he's quippy, right? And he says that he doesn't know where he's at, which is true. Okay. He doesn't know where he's at, in the debate. He wasn't mean to Joe Biden. He just said, or he'll call him crooked, some of these adjectives. But it's quippy. It's never, you're a threat to democracy. You're going to kill people. You're Hitler. You're a dictator. This is dangerous, violent rhetoric because what do we do to dictators? We kill them. What do we do to people who are threats to democracy? We charge them with treason and we kill them. Okay, so her and the rest of the media, they're the enemy of the people. So congrats. Y'all are the biggest purveyors and promoters of political violence, you dumb hack. All right, I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. When we come back, this woman started a 500-person riot. Find out how next. Okay, well, thank you, folks. Good morning. Hope you're having a decent morning. Yes, I had to start my morning with Joy Reid, but I'll make it through. I'll be all right. The hate is real. I see why Amber left the Democratic Party. Joy isn't black. She's cosplaying as black. She came here by choice. She can't speak for me. It's not true. We all have guns and fear mongering as well. So, I mean, I have no idea. Even if that story's true, I haven't been able to really find anything about that story. If somebody had a long rifle, I don't know Arizona's gun laws. I'd love it, Yellow Jacket, if you could inform me what the Arizona gun laws are all about. There, perhaps you have open carry and, somebody thought they were intimidating voters, but really it was just some guy walking around. And they said, oh, he's intimidating voters, just like Joe Biden said Ruby Freeman experienced violence. No, it was a pastor from Illinois who actually knocked on her door and asked if she was okay. Okay, that's not violence against Black people or against election authorities. Okay, that's a pastor knocking on somebody's door and asking if she's okay. Okay. And he is currently trumped up on all kinds of charges because of that. So yeah, the Biden business family plan has caused much wealth and riches for Joe Biden and his family because of his political standing. Yeah, he's made, and here's the difference between Trump and Joe Biden. Trump is part of the private sector. Joe Biden is part of the public sector. And the public sector is the enemy of the people. I really will say this. Government is the enemy of the people. These people who are in positions of power and make money off of taxpayers. They don't make anything. They don't do anything. They sit there and they make your life miserable and they collect your money while they do it. Okay, that's the people in the public sector. They don't do anything. They sit there. They make up these nonsense laws. I'll tell you about a story that I found or saw. In real time. I was watching it in the Capitol, and I was watching an Illinois representative. She gets up on the microphone. She says, hey, there's Planned Parenthood cupcakes in the break room if anybody wants one. She calls a point of personal privilege. Now, for those of you who don't know, points of personal privilege, this is to be addressed by the speaker, by the House Speaker, or by the Senate Speaker, by the person in charge, and to be addressed at a professional level and at a this is decorum, right? This is how things go, and they want to be addressed publicly on the floor, on the Senate floor or the House floor. This was a senator, I believe. So she gets up and she says, "There's cupcakes in the break room, and they're from Planned Parenthood." Okay, no matter what your stance is on abortion. This could have been cupcakes from the NRA, and I would have said the same thing. This is what they're doing with your tax dollars. They don't give a crap about you. They get up and they spout nonsense, and they use your tax dollars to do it. These are the people of society. These are the weird people in high school that were never going to make it in the world. And they were odd, they were weird, a little geeky. These are the people who wound up getting older and not making it in the private sector because they didn't have the balls to do it. They didn't make anything or do anything. And they decided to go into the public sector. They found a friend of a friend of a friend who got them a job in the public sector, and now they're paid for with tax dollars. Okay, this is what I can chalk this up to. Joe Biden is one of those people. Joe Biden is a weirdo, wasn't smart, geeky, and yeah. So hold on. Oh, we're not back yet. But there's a divide. There's private sector and public sector. The people in the public sector, they don't make anything. They make money off of your back. And the private sector props these people up. So that's the difference between Trump, wanting to be wealthy. He and his wealth comes from a place of honesty. Not to say that Trump is the best, okay? And he hasn't done anything wrong in his lifetime. That's just not true. All right, we're going to be back here in just about 15 seconds. I'm going to come back. Joy Reid, she's victim shaming Trump, of course. I am going to get to this wacky liberal in the news about how she started a 500-person riot. Absolutely incredible. That's next here on Conservative Cat. Woohoo! Hey, it's Conservative Cat City's 92.9. I'm live on YouTube. You can find me. It's Conservative Cat Show. Just type it in your search bar. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about a woman. Her name is Stephanie Pedroso. She's 36 years old. She was arrested and taken into custody on Wednesday. You won't believe it. She started a 500-person riot. Yes. Now, out of the logical and illogical things one can do when a skating rink cancels your daughter's birthday party, starting a 500-person riot is not even close to one of those things that you should do. Logical or illogical? I mean, what? How do you jump from, okay, they wouldn't let my daughter have her birthday party at the skating rink, now I'm going to cause a 500-person riot? How do you get there? Like, how do you get to that point? So this Florida woman, she decided to start a 500-person riot because she was upset, and she incited this riot, and it ended up in 26 people arrested after a skating rink canceled her daughter's birthday party. So Stephanie, like I said, taken into custody over this incident. And she's been booked on charges of inciting a riot and unlawful use of a two-way communication device to weaponize rioters. This is from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. The woman was peeved off as she was all upset because she didn't get her way. She was told no. And this wasn't a party that got out of control. It was because she was told no, and she became irate, and she's ratchet. Okay, so the investigators said that Stephanie called for violence at the Astro Skate Park in Brandon, Florida. Brandon, Florida. Pretty cool that it happened there. But anyway, so she called for violence after they canceled her daughter's after-hours birthday party because Stephanie failed to meet a contract requirement where she was supposed to hire an off-duty deputy for the event because it was an after-hours party. If you're going to have an after-hours party, what you need to do is get some law enforcement there. You have to hire some off-duty deputies. It's laid out in the contract that she signed, okay? So according to a news release from the county sheriff's office, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, she went on Instagram Live and said things like, I hope everybody still shows up and tears this bee up tomorrow. Make them crackers work. And for all y'all, if y'all still go up there, tear the bleep out of them. Tear the F out of them is what she said. I've got money for all of y'all. I'll pay y'all's arse. Okay, so this is what she said on the Instagram. She said, turn up and confront law enforcement on media. I mean, this is incitement. So they canceled a day before the event, the skating rink, because she failed to meet the contract requirements. So, you know, what really makes me upset about this is that it's a double standard, because if I were to live stream, and I have live streamed, I live streamed the other day about the JFK assassination, and I've been canceled on, Facebook. Can't live stream on Facebook or anything like that right now. We're just on YouTube and Rumble. But I talked about the JFK assassination and how it looked very close to Donald Trump's. And apparently I violated community standards. Who wants to bet that this woman is still, even after calling for violence, calling people a bunch of crackers, telling them to tear people up, saying that she'll pay people to tear people up? Who wants to bet that this woman has not been kicked off social media? I'm willing to bet that she still has her live streaming privileges even after that. But once on the scene, it took deputies nearly 6 hours to contain the behavior that led to 1 injury and 5 local businesses sustaining damage. Deputies arrested 23 juveniles and 3 adults for the escalation of the chaos at the scene. She encouraged 23 juveniles to riot. There are no words for that. In her live stream, she said that she'd pay people to riot. And look, folks, if she had enough money to pay 500 people to riot, then she had enough money to pay for a last-minute birthday party somewhere other than the skating rink, okay? So clearly this woman has never been told no a day in her life, and it's evident by her insane reaction to this non-issue. Like, they canceled. It's on you, lady. You're the one who didn't hire off-duty deputies to be at your event. You violated a contract agreement, and that's why they canceled your event. The mess even ended, so get this, the riot got so bad where a teenager was thrown through a window, and it's probably safe to conclude that this woman does not care. She does not care that this teen was thrown through a window. And the sheriff, here's the statement they released. I want to be clear, using social media to violate or using social media to encourage people to riot and destroy businesses is completely unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated here in Hillsborough County. This serves as a stark reminder of how quickly situations can spiral out of control, and it shows the importance of responsible behavior and the consequence of inciting violence. This was all because they canceled a birthday party. Wow, she's got to be. I feel bad for the kid. I really do. Gosh, that sucks. You got that as a role model? I'm sorry. So this woman, she's facing up to 5 years in prison. She's probably not going to get that. I think she deserves at least double. I mean, a kid was thrown through a window. Okay, a teenager was thrown through a window at one point. It's unclear how it's possible one can be as ratchet as this woman is, but could you imagine? I say the party like got to continue and like wasn't canceled. Say she got to go to this party. She probably would have caused so much damage to the skating rink if the party was able to go on as planned. She probably would have caused all kinds of damage. I mean, could you imagine had the party gone on, what kind of damage she would have caused? Wow. This is she was mad because somebody told her no. All right, I do have to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat. The U.S. has obtained intel in recent weeks on a plot by Iran to assassinate Trump. The development led to Secret Service increasing security before Saturday's shooting. The plot does not yet have a connection to Matthew Crooks. We're going to talk about it here coming up in just a little bit. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Mm-hmm. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning into the stream. This stream is brought to you by Patriot Pump. Patriot Pump it's a large bottle. Now this ain't cheap, but the reason why it's not cheap is because it's got all kinds of great things in there. This is a carefully crafted formula to make sure that you have the mental focus. It's got that black pepper extract. I think is really what gets my mental focus. This is a Christian conservative company made in the USA. Patriot Pump. It's a pre-workout. It has 150 milligrams of caffeine. I highly recommend this to my blue collar guys. If you've got a job that you got to be on, this is really going to help you out. Jackhammer, whatever the case may be, my blue collar guys, you're going to love this stuff. This company believes that your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health are all interconnected, and we want to help you make those the most excellent, and we want you to have the most excellent physical, spiritual, and mental health. So go ahead and go to patriotpumpenergy.com, the link. I'll go ahead and post it here in the comments section. Okay, so let me get to some of your comments. Look up the video about Biden's lie about his schooling. He had to admit that and publicly apologize. Apparently, he had the flu that day too. So, there's a video of him publicly apologizing for his lies about the lying about his schooling, how he's like top of his class or whatever. Career lying is his forte. He's a career politician. He's nothing else. Like I said, the public sector versus the private sector. This is what's wrong in America. We need to dismantle the public sector. We need to gut a lot of these agencies, get rid of the bureaucracy. And like I said, the JFK assassination, really, this was the catalyst to losing our country to these deep staters and to the mafia. I call them the Yankees and the Cowboys. It's the best example I can give. You've got the Yankees. These are the East Coasters. These are the Northeast finance gurus, the Clintons, right? And then you've got the Cowboys, the military industrial complex, the Texas oil Those are your rhino Republicans. And these are two mafias controlling everything that goes on in the nation. And they do it through unelected bureaucracy. They do it through these government agencies. And people who work in these government agencies, they are just losers. They've always been losers, and they couldn't make it in the private sector. So they went to the public sector, and they decided to steal, really, the people's money and take it and use it for time wasting, use it for stupid study after stupid study. I mean, you should see some of the stuff that comes out of Illinois. Absolutely insane. They're doing a hair study, a disparity in hair care products. They're doing a study for everything, and it's just these people getting paid to look and scour the internet for, articles or for what people say. I mean, that's they do nothing all day. These people in the public sector. It is so frustrating to have the public sector at such an elitist level. They're getting paid more and more, not less. And people like Joe Biden, they're the people who make nothing in this country. Trump, he actually made something. He provided a service. He built his empire from, real estate, hotels, golf courses, right? So these are actual tangible things that people go to spend money on, services, goods, and services. I'm back. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you interacting with the show. Yes, you have to look up that video, Cat, of Joe Biden, where he has to publicly apologize and admit that he lied about his schooling. I think that Joe Biden, he came out and said that he graduated like at the top of his class or something, and apparently he had the flu that day as well, and he publicly apologized for lying about what kind of schooling he had. Like I said, politicians, these career politicians, people in the public sector, they've never done anything in their lives. Government produces nothing, and they can't stand that Donald Trump is of the private sector and he actually made something of himself. Okay, so somebody earlier in the show, they were saying, Kat, Donald Trump is just doing this, trying to seek the presidency because it's all about getting money and it's all a business venture for him. Guy got shot and Guy was convicted and indicted and impeached. I doubt he's doing this just for the money. You'd realize pretty quickly if your life is just in shambles, how quickly, and if your life is threatened, how quickly you give something up. Okay, even money. Okay, at the end of the day, people value their life over money. Naturally, that's just the human condition. Okay, now people value money a lot, but not enough to kill themselves over, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You can't make money if you're dead. Okay, so the Biden business family plan is to make wealth off the backs of taxpayers, the public sector versus the private sector. And these people cannot stand that Trump actually made something of himself. The public sector is full, and I mean full, and especially in Illinois, of people who are losers. Okay, and you know the type. They were losers. They were kind of maybe popular in school a little bit, but they were mainly losers. They weren't the jocks. They weren't the cool people, the football players. These were the people who were like, teacher's pet and really kind of geeky. And they didn't have a whole lot of friends. Okay, so these people grew up and then they took positions in government, specifically government agencies. And what these people do all day is they sit there and they dream of ways to make your life miserable, and they dream of ways and create ways to take more money from you, because they don't create anything. They don't have a product. Okay, Trump, he has the golf courses, the real estate, the hotels. He actually created something and sold it. Okay, this is making an honest living. Governor J.B. Pritzker, everybody in Illinois government, almost everybody in Illinois government, they have not made anything. They do not come from the private sector. They are people who have been in the public sector all of their lives. I point to Dick Durbin, who's been there. He's a dinosaur. He's been there his entire life and has made money off of the backs of taxpayers. How do you do that? Like, honestly, how do you make money off of doing nothing? Really, in making nothing. They produce nothing. I mean, have you ever gone to the DMV? Have you ever sent something through the mail or tried to receive something through the mail? That's a testament to what the government does. Nothing. It takes forever. Government is slow. The agencies, it takes forever to get somebody on the phone because they do nothing. They just take your money. All right. I do want to talk about how people are saying that this is Iran, the attempted assassination on President Donald Trump. The U.S. obtained intel in recent weeks on the plot by Iran to assassinate Trump, a development that led Secret Service to increasing his security before Saturday's shooting. What? Increasing his security? Come on, folks. You sent the B team. The B team was out there. That woman ducked behind President Donald Trump when the shots were fired. There was a woman who was adjusting her sunglasses the whole time, and then another woman who couldn't holster her gun properly. Like, come on, that was not your best, and that was not increasing security. But anyway, so the plot by Iran to assassinate President Donald Trump has no known connection to Matthew Crooks, the actual shooter. I think that this is incredible. Look, they're going to try to justify going to war with Iran by using it. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Never let a botched assassination attempt by the CIA go to waste. So now they're going to use this botched assassination attempt to go to war with Iran and make more money. Okay, because the military industrial complex, they want to boost their Bell helicopter stock. Okay, so this is Ukraine 2.0, rinse and repeat. Like I said, increased security, you're lying. There's no way that there was an increased security and, you know, intel that they were going to assassinate President Donald Trump. Oh, but it has no known connection to Crooks, however. This is clearly them trying to blame it on Iran so they can go to war. And this is going to do World War III. This is actual World War III. We are closer to World War III than we've ever been. Remember when Trump got elected and they were like, oh, he's going to drive us into World War III, World War III. No, we're actually way closer to World War III under President Joe Biden. Just look at what's going on in Ukraine. We're in a proxy war with Russia right now. We're getting into a war with Iran because we know that Iran, they're the ones who actually fund Hamas and gave them that funding to execute that vicious attack in October against the Israelites. So now we're going to get into a war with Iran. So it's incredible. It's incredible. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Bye-bye. Love you. Talk to you tomorrow. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Largest employer in the U.S. is the government, yes, and it's only getting worse. So here in Illinois, I think it's like the percentage of government officials to people in the private sector is like way exploded and bloated. And the amount of people making over $100,000 is like jumped by 80% in the last couple of years. So largest employer in the US, the government, yes. And these are people who don't make anything. They don't make anything. And that's what really peeps me off is there's honest people trying to make an honest living. And they actually make something. And they're struggling because they can never get a leg up in the real world. This is fake world, clown world. The government sector, public sector. This is the real world where people actually make things, buy things, and participate in this little thing called the economy and life. These people don't. They don't participate in life. They are their own little sphere. It's like, if I could explain what it was like seeing this all unfold at the Capitol, it was like a frat party, like a college frat party. I felt like I was back in college. Quite literally, I saw one lawmaker slap the ass of another lawmaker and like say good game or good job or something to that effect. And I thought to myself, these are politicians and we're paying these people to be here and they're acting like it's a party. And quite literally, there were parties. I mean, every night, drinking parties in Springfield, parties that I was invited to. And I thought to myself, whoa, this is weird. Why am I, the journalist, being invited to drinking parties with politicians? So, yes, very different world. It's a clown world over here, and they don't actually live life. So we are going to end the show for today. I'm going to be live a little bit later on today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Clifford. Yes, thank you for the exchange. Like I said, I just don't think that Trump is doing this just for money. You know, at the end of the day, if your life is threatened and if your legacy is threatened, and one thing that you need to know about men specifically, if their reputation is threatened, the likelihood that they value money over their reputation is very, very slim. We see this throughout American history where men went and dueled each other over their reputation. Okay, they were willing to die for their reputation. Money, they're willing to kill other people for money, but killing yourself for money doesn't really make a whole lot of sense logically, because you can't make more money if you're dead. Okay, now your reputation lasts forever, even after you're dead, your legacy. So Trump's legacy has been completely destroyed. And I don't care who you are. You can, agree, leftist, if you're somebody on the right. If somebody destroys your legacy, that's long lasting. And that follows you after your death. And, for somebody like Trump, a man specifically, to risk his legacy and his reputation to become president just because he wants to make more money doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Love yous. You guys have a great day. And don't forget, buy your Patriot Pump today. It's patriotpumpenergy.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.